A gene seed is the key genetic material used to grow the artificial organs that transforms and distinguishes an Astartes from a regular human. It helps to alter the aspirant's biology during the implantation process in order to better accept the Astartes implants. Being a chapter's most important resource, containing the genetic structure that builds and defines each chapter's unique marine. These unique characteristics are actually mutations and flaws that cause differences in their physiology and psychology. Some are purely cosmetic, such as the death specters, while others have either positive or negative effects, such as the salamanders, space wolves, and blood angels. These mutations would most often be hereditary, and in some cases, along with their unique methods of implantation, would result in further degradation and mutation. When not implanted, gene seeds are generally stored in methanol hyperfreeze within genovaults or gene casks, armored containers used to specifically hold and protect these valuable genetic materials. Gene seeds were first created by the Emperor and his Terran Biotechnical Division, and although his armies had already included genetically altered warriors, such as the Custodes and the Thunder Warriors, they were far fewer in numbers and had a much shorter lifespan. Through centuries of research and development, they were able to isolate individual germ cells, dubbed gene seeds, to be genetically modified to create artificial organs that can be implanted into his warriors. These research were conducted in conjunction with the Primaris project, with samples of genetic tissues taken from each fetal Primaris, and these were used as the foundation of the gene seed of each Space Marine legions. This results in the legions, along with their successor chapters, inheriting some traits associated with their respective Primaris. And though the Emperor and his Terran scientists managed to create the original gene seed in smaller quantities, it wasn't until their conquest of the advanced genetic cults of Luna, the Selenar, that he was able to mass produce the gene seeds to begin production of his legions. Due to the events of the Post-Heresy, many of the Loyalist legions' gene seeds had severely degraded. This is due to the increased and accelerated cultivation used to keep the legions at full strength throughout the heresy. Multiple genetic banks were established on Terra to produce and store these gene seeds, separated based on individual legions. These banks would provide the genetic material for newer Space Marine chapters in the subsequent foundings, and they were all isolated to prevent cross-contamination and possible further mutation. And unknown to many, even Traitor Legion gene seeds were kept in a time-locked status seal. With the division of the Space Marine legions into chapters following the introduction of the Codex Astartes, some genetic materials were found to be more pure compared to others, with over half of the 1,000 chapters being descended from the Ultramarines' gene stock, either through direct inheritance or via their many second founding chapters. Ongoing mutations of gene seeds continue to plague the Imperium with varying degrees of impact, ranging from producing new effects in a Marine to becoming useless altogether. If an entire chapter's gene stock were to be corrupted or destroyed, it would lead to that chapter's extinction. This led to various newer countermeasures to be put into effect, including the constant monitoring of gene seeds via each chapter's apothecarian, as well as maintaining a repository of each chapter's gene stock in various locations, specifically the Adaptus Mechanicus on Mars. This repository on Mars serves two purposes. The first being to enable the Adaptus Mechanicus to monitor the health of each Marine chapter, and the second is to create a store of preserved gene seed to be used to found new chapters. Founding a new chapter is a lengthy process. This is due to the required 1,000 gene seeds needed to create the 1,000 Space Marines. Starting with a single suitable gene seed of stable and uncorrupted state, it is used to create a zygote that is grown in culture and implanted into a single test slave. This slave is selected due to his biological compatibility to the zygote, as well as freedom from any form of mutation. Test slaves are little more than physical mediums for the creation of gene seeds, bound to experimental capsules where they are kept conscious but completely immobile. The process begins with a single slave, whose body would go on to produce 2 progonoid glands. Those 2 new progonoids would then be implanted into 2 more slaves, who would go on to produce 4 progonoids. This process would be repeated until 1,000 healthy sets of organs are produced, taking approximately 55 years of constant reproduction in order to fulfill the gene seed requirements. Although the imperial law states that only the emperor may authorize the founding of a new chapter, the High Lords of Terra would act in his stead. Tens of thousands of new Primaris Space Marines were created thanks to the 10,000 years of effort by Belisarius Cawl, and thanks to the use of the Sancprimus Portum, the gene seed of the Primaris Marines are closer to the original Primarchs than standard versions. Along with 3 additional implants, the Primaris Marines are more genetically stable than their firstborn cousins, allowing the drastic acceleration of gene seed production at rates not seen since the time of the Emperor himself. Due to the general scarcity of a chapter's gene seed repository, it would only be given to the most worthy of candidates. These candidates are put through rigorous testing and genetic screenings before the process of implantation can begin. Reproduction of a gene seed within a chapter is only possible through the use of the progonoid gland, one of the implants within a Space Marine whose sole purpose is the reproduction of gene seed. Once a gland is fully matured, it would be removed from an apothecary, and new organs would be cultured from it. The gene seed is regarded spiritually within the Astartes. As a fallen Marine's body dies, he would continue to live on as the gene seed that would then return to the chapter, awaiting for the next brother to arise. Of the remaining 9 Loyalist legions, the following shows the calculated chances of gene seed mutation in ascending order. The Ultramarines prove among the most stable, with the Dark Angels and Imperial Fists at only 10% chance of mutation. At 20% chance of mutation are the White Scars, Raven Guard, and Iron Hands. Blood Angels have a 50% chance of mutation due to the Black Rage and Red Thirst. Space Wolves have a high chance of mutation at 75%. Salamanders suffering the most at 90% chance of mutation. Though the term mutation is generally approached with caution, especially by the Inquisition, not all mutations prove disadvantageous. For example, the Space Wolves and Blood Angels suffer at the hands of their respective mutations, the Curse of the Wolfen and the Flaw, that saw added challenges when creating successor chapters. The Space Wolves were not able to have successor chapters due to the instability of their gene seed, leading a high number of their aspirants to suffer the Curse of the Wolfen, where they would willingly transform into feral beasts and were unfortunately not able to overcome it. The Blood Angels' successor chapters would also suffer the same mutation as their predecessor, with varying degrees of instability, leading to some chapters being on the brink of extinction. The Flaw is a collective term used to describe the 2 genetic instability within the Blood Angels, one being the Red Thirst and the second being the Black Rage. The Red Thirst causes the warrior to suffer an unusual bloodlust, most times leading the warrior to lose control over themselves. The Black Rage is believed to have been caused by a psychic imprint left by Sanguinius's death, and when a warrior is overcome by the Black Rage, he would only know fury, imbued by his Gene Father's memories, gaining a small portion of his unearthly powers, boosting him to even further superhuman levels. On the more positive side of mutation, however, the salamanders suffer a 90% mutation rate, but their mutation proved somewhat beneficial, as all salamanders' marines' skin would turn dark or jet black, allowing them greater tolerance to extreme temperatures and radiation. The Ultramarines' mutations would come in a more psychological form of increased aggression and a tendency towards cohesion and hierarchy, making them some of the most proficient warriors. The Grey Knights are a unique chapter within the Imperium in that they source their gene seeds directly from the Emperor's own unaltered genetic code, giving them increased resistance to chaos and increased psychic abilities. The 21st Founding, also known as the Cursed Founding, was notable in that its focus was the perfecting and removal of deficiencies in the proven flawed gene seeds. This intention, however, proved counterproductive as the chapters of the 21st Founding were known to develop genetic idiosyncrasies, followed by general bad luck, or cursed. Many of the 21st Founding chapters are known to be lost, having mysteriously disappeared while traveling through the warp or while in action, while others were simply found to have been tainted and simply purged. Some of the 21st Founding chapters and their fates are the Lamenters, who attempted to revolt against the Imperium, were subsequently defeated and sent on a penance crusade. They were almost annihilated and absorbed by Hive Fleet Kraken, and as of 999 M41, they're still within the 100 year of the start of their penance crusade. The Firehawks, known to have disastrously bad luck, losing 2 homeworlds in 2 separate instances, losing a majority of their fighting strength by the Badab War's 3rd year, and disappearing into the warp for unknown reasons. However, their fates remain uncertain to say the least, and grim at most, as speculations lead many to believe that the Firehawks suffered the decay of the warp, tormenting and twisting the once proud Space Marine chapter of potential Ultramarine heritage to the now legendary and mysterious chapter known as the Legion of the Damned. The Flame Falcons, known to have extreme physical corruptions that led to spontaneous immolation. These immolations do not harm the Marines themselves and proved combat beneficial. Even with the valuable combat prowess of these immolation mutations, the Inquisition deemed the entire chapter excommunicate traitores, sending the Grey Knights to destroy the mutant Marines. It's unknown how many Marines survived the Purge, with sightings of immolated Marines fighting on more than one Imperial battlefield. The chapter is now known to have become a renegade chapter. The Sons of Antaeus, the chapter's gene seed mutation, allowed the Marines to withstand damage that would otherwise kill any normal Space Marine, with their endurance being compared to that of the Plague Marines of the Death Guard. Nearly all Chaos Space Marine gene seeds suffer from the same instability, with some speculating that it's due to the same rot that occurred before the Horus Heresy, or simply the constant exposure to the warp. This instability led to various challenges when creating new Chaos Space Marines, leading to frequent raids on Imperial stronghold worlds to steal stable gene seeds. With the new breed of Primaris Space Marines, the Imperium was able to achieve far higher levels of stability compared to their firstborns, with many of the severe defects being avoided entirely while maintaining the unique and beneficial perks. In addition to the genetic stability, the Primaris Space Marine also has an increased genetic potency, leading to physically larger and stronger Primaris Space Marines compared to their firstborn cousins.